leadership lesson of feedback and feed forward that I learned from my own son when he was younger. Dr. Marshall Goldsmith is considered world's #1 leadership thinker. He pioneered the highly effective leadership coaching process through feedback and feed forward. Instead of focusing too much on the past, the concept of feed forward focuses on suggestions to improve in the future. Although I didn't know these concepts at that time, many years ago, I had a unique opportunity to practice how to handle feedback and to work on feed forward while interacting with my younger son. I have two sons who are now both grown up adults. My elder son is 3 years older than the younger one. This incident is from many years ago when both were much younger. Feedback from my son. One day when I returned from work, my younger son came to me. He looked a little upset. I asked him what was the matter. He replied in a very emotional tone, "Dad, you don't love me as much as you love my brother. He is your favorite." If you are a parent of more than one child, I am sure you have had a similar conversation with your children. This feedback came as a shock to me, as I truly believed that I loved both my sons equally. It didn't match with how I perceived the situation. How do I respond to this feedback? How would you have responded in a similar situation? Well, I had several different options to handle this situation. Let's discuss them. Option 1 to respond to the feedback. Simply reject it. I could just reject the feedback. My response would be something like this: "Son, what are you talking about? This is nonsense. I love you both equally, and don't ever make such baseless accusations. Don't ever say that I love you less than your brother." Here's the question. Would this response help change my son's perception that I loved him less than I loved his elder brother? What do you think? Option 2, to respond to the feedback. Reason with it. I could reason with my son and provide him proof of how both of them were treated fairly and equally. The conversation would be something like this: "Look, son, whenever I bring candies or goodies, I bring it for both of you. We celebrated birthdays for both of you. I brought birthday gifts for both of you. I treat you both equally and I love you both the same. Please don't say that I love you any less." Again, the question is, would this response help change my son's perception that I loved him less than I loved his elder brother? What do you think? Option number 3, to respond to the feedback. Accept, acknowledge, and use feed forward. I could just accept the feedback unconditionally and acknowledge his feelings. Here is the conversation. "Son, I am very sorry that you feel that way. What can I do in the future so that you feel that I love you as much as I love your brother?" Well, there was an uncomfortable silence for at least a couple of minutes. Why? My son probably didn't expect this response. I could see that he was thinking very hard to come up with some kind of an answer. After a while, he replied with strong emotion again. Dad, you are always discussing all kinds of things with my elder brother. Politics, technology, sports, and a lot more. You never discuss anything with me. Well, my first reaction was to explain the fact that he was 3 years younger and he probably wouldn't understand many of these things that I discuss routinely with my older son. 3 years can make a lot of difference when children are younger. I wanted to assure him that in 3 years, when he would be the same age as my elder son, I would be happy to discuss these topics with him. But I bit my tongue and paused and thought about it. Would that reasoning address his concerns? Would that line of conversation change his perception? What do you think? My guess is probably not. So I tried another response, feed forward. Son, what topics would you like to discuss with me? Do you like politics? Dad, I don't like politics. I have no interest in discussing politics. How about sports? His eyes lit up. Dad, I would love to discuss sports with you. What's your favorite sport? Dad, I love cricket. Which is your favorite team? Indian national cricket team is my favorite, Dad. Who's your favorite player? Virat Kohli. He excitedly replied immediately. What other teams do you like? Dad, I love IPL. Chennai Super Kings are my favorite team. Again, he replied very excitedly. Who's your favorite player in that team? MS Dhoni. He retorted very quickly. Great, I said. And the conversation ended right there. Changing my behavior and changing his perception. Over the next few weeks, I started paying attention to cricket, although I am not a big fan of cricket. I started Googling for scores of the Indian national cricket team and the Chennai Super Kings IPL team. I also started checking how Virat Kohli and MS Dhoni, both of them my son's favorite players, had performed. It would take me a couple of minutes of browsing to quote unquote catch up with cricket and what was happening in the world of cricket, especially with my son's favorite teams and favorite players. I would then discuss the scores and the results with my son after I reached home from work, with special emphasis on the performance of his favorite teams and the performance of his favorite players. All I had to do was just start the conversation and he would excitedly fill in the rest of the details. He was very well informed as cricket was his passion. So here is the question again. Would this third option help change my son's perception that I loved him a little less than I loved his elder brother? What do you think? Which one of these three options are most likely to change my son's opinion? Well, the answer is obvious. As actions speak louder than words, my efforts at implementing his suggestions to make him feel loved would go a long way towards changing his perception. If I continued working on his suggestions for a sufficient period of time, the change in his perception would not only be certain, but probably permanent. Feedback is just that, feedback. Was my son's feedback wrong? The feedback that I loved him less than I loved his brother? Was my perception wrong that I loved both my sons equally? Well, Therein lies the interesting dynamics about feedback. From his perspective, my son was right. He saw me interacting with my elder son regularly and he felt left out. His perception was that I was ignoring him or that he was not that important to me. On the other hand, I was right also. I sincerely loved both my children. I had no intention of loving one of them more than the other. Both perceptions can be proven right or can be proven wrong. That's why basically feedback is just that. Feedback is feedback. It is neither right nor wrong. Feedback is a gift. When someone is willing to share feedback in your presence, it is a gift. They could have chosen to talk about us or our performance behind our backs, but they dared to share it with us. Feedback allows us to get better. All feedback can be a gift if we just put our egos aside and are willing to listen. In fact, there cannot be any significant improvement without feedback. Had I not listened to my son's feedback, he could have carried this misconception that he was loved less, probably for the rest of his life. And how bad would that be? His feedback allowed me to correct the course and address two things. First is my own behavior, and then second was his perception. Dr. Marshall Goldsmith's feed-forward process of coaching leaders. Although I didn't know it at that time, I was applying the process of feed-forward pioneered by world's #1 leadership thinker, Dr. Marshall Goldsmith. This simple yet powerful process has been used by Dr. Marshall Goldsmith to coach CEOs of 150 out of the Fortune 500 companies. The 7 steps of the feed-forward process are: number 1, ask; number 2, listen; number 3, thank; number 4, think; number 5, respond; number 6, change; and number 7, follow up. Our leadership coaching using Marshall Goldsmith's stakeholder-centered coaching is based on 3 primary concepts: feedback, feed-forward, and follow-up. Would you like the leaders in your organization to become better leaders through the process of feedback and feed-forward using the tried and tested process of stakeholder-centered coaching pioneered by Dr. Marshall Goldsmith? We offer guaranteed and measurable leadership development coaching along with emotional intelligence assessment to develop specific leadership competencies. We use the one-on-one coaching for leaders, the stakeholder-centered coaching pioneered by Dr. Marshall Goldsmith. Here are some of the features of our leadership development coaching process. Guaranteed measurable leadership growth as assessed not by us but anonymously assessed by leaders' own team members. Unlike training or executive education programs where only the executive is involved, here the entire team will be involved while doing their day-to-day work. The leader becomes the coach and it has a cascading effect on the entire team all the way down to the front line. It is a system of continuous improvement for leaders themselves and for their teams. It is leadership Kaizen. In a study of 11,000 leaders on 4 continents, 95%, I said 95% of the leaders using this process improved. This is the same exact process that has been used by 150 of the Fortune 500 companies to grow their leaders. We are so confident of this process, its efficiency. We know that it works, and we work with you on a no growth, no pay basis. Don't try that with other vendors. Schedule an exploratory 15-minute conversation with our leadership advisor today, or text, call, or WhatsApp the number in the link below. Thank you for watching. Please share the video if you liked or enjoyed it, and see you in the next video. Thank you.